Howdy guys and gals, I'm Kyle Broderick. Welcome to the Social Regressive. What you see on the bench right here is one of the most fun guns that I've ever had a chance to shoot. This is the CMMG Banshee in 9mm, and then they have three different levels. This is the level 300, which is their top tier. And in this video, make sure that you stick around because we're going to break down the differences between all the different levels within the CMMG Banshee line. And we're also going to take a look at the parts up close. We're going to take a look at targets that I shot to see how tight this thing groups with different kinds of ammunition. And we're going to take a look at some of the challenges. This is a very unique little thing. You can see that this looks like an SBR. This actually is classified as a pistol, so you don't have to deal with the NFA tax stamp and wait periods and all that. As long as you can own a pistol in whatever area where you live, then this is classified as that in the United States, and you can just go ahead and just buy this right off the shelf and get to work right away. But it also handles like a little SBR, like a rifle, and it's really is just a hoot to shoot. Let's go ahead and start talking about some of the tests that we put this through. The big one, of course, was initially the kind of little running gun that we had set up. We had 6 of us out there, including one 7-year-old boy, and we were running around with this, shooting at multiple targets, trying to get multiple rounds on some of the targets. Some of them a little bit further away, some a little closer, some smaller, and we just had a great time with this. Especially, it turned out that little boy, Wyatt, just loved shooting this, and apparently afterward he just kept asking when he could take it out again. What we came away with at the end of this challenge was that the Banshee is quick to point, quick to get on target, quick to bounce between targets, very accurate, and then as long as we were running the right ammunition, it was also very reliable. So we were running American Eagle 115 grain full metal jacket for the most part. This stuff ran without a hiccup. This is inexpensive, readily available. You can order this in bulk online, and this ran very well in there. We also came up with some hand loads. These are Syntech right here. These are the new bullets from Federal. They started out selling the ammunition itself, which was completely loaded, but they did start selling these bullets all by themselves, and I'm a big fan. I was able to slightly tweak one of my regular recipes for copper jacketed bullets, and once I bumped up the powder level just a little bit, we did have some hiccups in the multi-target kind of running gun challenge that we had, just because I think I had my powder a little bit too low, and it was a little bit of a cool day. So yeah, we did have some hiccups with this, but I've bumped it up since then, and it is running 100%. This is these bullets are really quite cool. They're going to help actually kind of clean the gun as they go through, and they're going to fire just like your copper-clad bullets. The other ammunition that ran 100% in this pistol all the time was Streak ammunition. This is premium ammunition. It's rather expensive, but it was a lot of fun. This is a tracer ammunition that works surprisingly well, and it's not your typical tracer ammunition. This doesn't have any kind of phosphorus material that burns on the way down the range. Instead, this has a glow-in-the-dark back of the bullet. And as you might know, when that powder is burning inside the case, it's creating a really bright light, so it supercharges that glow-in-the-dark material. And we had no trouble at about 180 yards, maybe a little bit more. It could have been up toward 200 yards, being able to see that streak of light heading down to hit the target. This ammunition was also quite accurate, so as long as we held correctly, yeah, we could get on target on our little 2/3 IDPA target out at 180 yards. And that was another really fun shoot. The boy Wyatt loved this as well. And we're going to show some targets with all this ammo here in a sec. And while we're talking about accuracy, the first thing that I actually did with this pistol is go out with my father-in-law and my cousin on my wife's side, and we just started plinking at various objects out just at the range. We were at 25 yards and we started shooting pistol cases and rifle cases, and being able to hit a 7.62 by 54 millimeter case at 25 yards, that's pretty darn good for a 9mm especially, and we were able to hit those several times. This definitely has all the accuracy that you would need to get whatever job you need done. If you need to be able to deal with varmints or you want to be able to protect yourself, yeah, this is an accurate piece. And we were actually just shooting 1X. This is a TRS-25 from Bushnell, and this is what we use to be able to get on target at that distance. We did test out some other sighting systems, and we'll talk about that here in a second, because there are some ones that, well, we can definitely recommend. Okay, so we figured out that it's accurate and that it's quick between targets, it's easy to move around, quick to point. What about its ergonomics? Because this is not quite a rifle, not quite a pistol, and it does handle just a little bit differently than everything else. And in a lot of ways, that's going to be very, very good. One of the things that on this level, this is the level 300, it comes with a RIP brace. This is a pistol brace that's meant to go around your arm. You can see the aperture right there. I have a whole video just talking about the RIP brace itself, and I'll link to that around here in the video. But this can actually attach to your forearm, and then you can hold on the grip like usual, and you can shoot one-handed if you want, and it actually does work. In our speed challenge, we did try running that a few times, and it was a lot of fun. I also tried just some offhand kind of Hollywood shooting, you know, holding it down low and shooting, and it works. It is a very natural gun to point. But then for most of us, we're probably going to be choosing this because it does work like a good rifle stock, and you can get down pretty easily behind this and use it like you would any other stock, like on a even on an SBR that's going to have a kind of a fuller stock back here. This will work quite well. You can see that the shape, they've kind of cut out right here, so it fits really neatly here on the chest. Some of the other pistol braces don't fit quite as nicely, and we'll take a look at an option here in a second. But this one does work very well as that stock if you want to shoot like that, and it's very comfortable across the top. As far as total ergonomics, just being able to kind of whip this up and get shooting, this is quite short. The RIP brace, that they have two different models. There's the Micro CQB and the standard. The 300 level 1 comes with the Micro CQB, so this is quite short. But if you put it more on your chest than into your shoulder and kind of square up to your targets for more like, you know, a tactical sort of stance, then this does actually point quite well, and it's very comfortable to get behind. You do have a short forearm. It's comfy. It has M-LOK here on the sides and M-LOK here on the bottom. Remember that you can't put a vertical grip on this or you'll get in trouble with the ATF. You can hold it like a lot of folks like to do with ARs. You can hold right here at the front of the magwell, and you can hold out here if you like. Just remember that this little stop is not just something that's pretty to look at. This is to remind you that if you go in front of the gun, you're going to blow your hand off. But this, once you get everything locked in with this MOE grip right here, it's very comfortable and easy to bounce between targets. And even that little boy Wyatt, he just loved shooting this. Let's take a close look at the parts and specs on the Banshee so that you can see what makes this different from all the other AR pistols out there. You can probably begin to tell already just by looking at it. This has some parts that are very specific. CMMG is very picky when it comes to their parts that they put together, and actually pretty much everything in here is CMMG. They made all of this stuff themselves. It's all designed to work together really well, and just the appearance is a good indication of what's going on. Let's take a look at this lower receiver first. You can see that this has a pretty different shape. It does have the little trigger guard down here that's just part of the total receiver, and the receiver itself, it is designed to fit the particular magazine that we're working with specifically, and they've done this for every one of their chamberings. And by the way, I should just go ahead and throw out their chamberings right now. This little pistol comes in 22 long rifle, 5.7 by 28, so that's going to be that FN round, the 5.7 that you might have heard of. That's a really neat little one that they launched last year, and I got to shoot it a little bit. Crazy accurate, even out to some of those longer ranges. I think we had a maximum of 100 yards at the range we were shooting. But it was a lot of fun. Just, you know, no kick and very precise. We have 9mm, and we have a choice of 2 different magazine types. You can run Glock mags, like we have right here. These are 33 rounders. Or you can run the Colt mags if you want a more, straight up and down. You like that magazine system better. And I should point out that there are differences in the action up here. We're going to take a look at the peculiar action in here, which is called radial delayed blowback. This is not using your typical blowback design that's just gonna, go straight back, and typically has a little bit of a heavier buffer, heavier spring, that kind of thing to make it happen. This one is very special. We'll take a look at that, but if you have the Glock mags, you get the radial delayed blowback. If you have the 5.7x28 radial delayed blowback and 45 ACP, but with the 22 long rifle and the 9mm Colt, you have just a straight blowback. And then with a bunch of the other cartridges we're about to mention here, you're going to get some kind of gas system and a longer barrel as well. And by the way, that's a 5-incher in there. So we have 5.56 by 45, so you have your typical 223 round that you can get in this. 6.5 Grendel, 300 Blackout, 7.62 by 39, 308 Winchester, and 458 SOCOM. That is a huge range of chamberings that you can get this little pistol in. Now granted, some of these will have that longer barrel, like up to 12.5 inches, I think is the top end, like for the 308, which is exactly what I want. I don't want, just fireball. I do want the bullet to be able to leave the muzzle as well and have some decent velocity. But yeah, the 458 SOCOM, can you imagine the thump on that? That'll be a lot of fun to shoot in pistol configuration right here. But this model right here, as we mentioned, takes Glock mags. We ran 3 different mags in here, and we did have hiccups with one. We just had an issue with the lockup right here for the mag catch. This one was peened just a little bit, and it would cause some feed issues. But the other ones ran just perfectly. As long as we had, good ammo that we were running through, it didn't matter if it was hollow point or FMJ, whatever, it liked the round nose, it would handle it all. So let's keep looking at the lower receiver here. This is the mag catch, which you can see is, something very proprietary. It's easy to hit. It doesn't really stick out like your average AR-15 style paddle. You have the big button that kind of sticks out just a little bit. This one takes a little bit of getting used to. Our guys that went out and shot, they weren't used to feeling this smooth release, and they were kind of feeling around for the usual button, but once they figured out where it was pretty easy to get into. Moving back a little bit, we have ambidextrous controls. This is the level 300 Banshee, so your safety is going to be ambi. And then we have a great big charging latch up here that's going to be usable from either side as well. This will release from both the left and the right, and this is a CMMG product right here that I'm testing on the Scout AR. Love that little thing. And then the trigger, as we move forward, this is their mil-spec trigger. I thought at first this was a Geissele because it felt so good, but no, it turns out this is a CMMG trigger in here, and we are going to figure out what its pull is. Got a trigger gauge right here. Let's see what we can figure out. Oh, here, we'll have to flip it over to the other side. Okay, that's 2.5 kilograms. And on the pound side, that's about a 5.5 pound pull. In reality, when going out shooting with this, it feels like a lot less than that. And it does have some creep. Here, I'll go ahead and show you up close here. Because this is a mil-spec trigger. Okay, so watch my finger. Okay, a little bit of creep. And really not a whole ton of over travel either. It's not huge. And in the field, it feels great. If you do want to upgrade your trigger at some point, there are a couple I can recommend. The Rise Armament RA140 SST has been working out extremely well in the Scout AR that we have put together. That's a 3.5 pound pull, single stage, tiny over travel. Make sure that you keep an eye on that Scout AR because it's proving to be a great test platform for this. It really does feel a lot like a bolt-action rifle trigger. And then we have the, if you want something a little bit heavier to make sure that you don't accidentally pull the trigger, this is a 4.5 pound pull LE-145. I've been testing out both of these triggers and I like them a whole lot. I can definitely recommend these, even over the Geissele's and the Timneys. Both of those are excellent triggers, but they just don't really have the crispness and the tiny over travel that you get from these. I do prefer Rise. Most of what we've looked at so far is going to be standard from the 100 series up through the 300 series. You're going to get these wonderful receivers and the forend with its M-LOK attachments and a little finger stop right here to keep you hopefully from shooting your own hand. But some of the differences: at the 100 level, you're going to get a standard A2 grip instead of the Magpul MOE. The MOE is wonderful if you want to tack it on later. Yeah, definitely look at this one. It's one of my favorite grips right now. The ambidextrous controls are only on the 300 level, so that's going to be both the charging latch and the safety right here. The trigger is the same across both, and the mag catch and all that is going to be the same. And where we also get into some differences is the little rip brace back here. On the level 300, you do get this special brace. On the level 100, you just get a pistol tube, but then I think for the other two, you get this. And we've gone over this in a whole video. I'll link to it around here. But for this, it quickly, you can see that overall it's very tiny, and I should measure this while we're just taking a look. This comes out to be about 19 1/8 inches overall length when it is stowed, and then you get probably about 2.5 inches of extra length when you extend it. Yeah, about 2.5 inches extra length right there. You guys and gals that may have lost the use of a hand or arm and you do need a pistol brace in order to stabilize your weapon, I recommend that you go with the level 100 Banshee. That's just going to come with the pistol tube and not a brace at all. And take a look at this right here. This is the Gearhead Works Tailhook Mod 2, and this really does seem to be designed ground up for someone that has difficulty using one of their arms. This can all be manipulated just with one hand. In order to deploy the hook right here, all you have to do is just press this button and extend it, and then your wrist or your forearm is going to sit inside here, and then you can shoot like that. And I have tried this kind of offhand and kind of point shooting and aiming shooting, and it works very well. It's very stable. I like it quite a lot. And you also have a button right here for extending the length of pull right here if you want to shoot kind of traditionally like a rifle stock. Moving forward from the brace, we do have the butt plate right here, this little back plate for all the springs to hold everything in there, and this is two-sided, so you can run a sling, probably a single point sling on this because it is so short. You want to run this like a PDW, and you do get loops on both sides right there. So this whole thing overall is set up very well for lefties, for righties, for whoever. And we did have a left-handed young boy, Wyatt, who was shooting this, and yeah, he liked it overall. The safety was easy for him to get at, and he didn't seem to have any issues there. So now let's step forward and take a look at the real party piece of this whole thing. So far we've seen a lot of quality, a lot of good parts, but what we are really interested in is the action. And that's all going to be happening right up in here. You do have a typical pistol buffer back in here and buffer spring. You don't need anything really special going on back here. This is just whatever came with the rip brace. But then when you run the charging handle or when a round fires, what's happening is that the bolt is camming in place. It's not This is not a gas system, so this does not have a gas tube coming from the 5-inch barrel up there. And by the way, the barrel is nitrided, so this should it's going to last forever. It's a 9mm anyway, but you should have a lot of corrosion resistance. You should be able to resist rust really well. And then it will extend the barrel life as well there. And you can see that this one right here, this has just a muzzle protector, so you can put a silencer or whatever kind of other muzzle device you want on here. And actually some of the lower models do come with, I think the level 100 comes with a flash hider, level 200 comes with a brake, and level 300 you just get a thread protector right there. But what happens is inside the barrel extension inside there, the backs of that, and here I'm going to show you the bolt because this is really going to illustrate what's happening when this cycles. As I take this apart to show you the guts, I do have to point out that everything here locks up really tightly. The little bit of rattle that you hear is actually from the brace back here and not from any play between the two receivers. This does lock up very tightly, and I can feel it when I'm running the pins here. Okay, so one thing that I should point out right away as I'm disassembling the pistol is that you'll see that the buffer, or not the buffer, but the carrier group is actually sticking out right now. When I try to press it in, there's kind of a spring bounce, because that's kind of how this works. There is some spring tension that's helping to hold the bolt in place. Okay, so watch that. There's a spring inside the carrier that tries to push to keep the bolt in place, and they have done a ton of work figuring out the perfect angle for these right here, for getting spring tensions all the way around. And let me tell you, it works. So let me show you the real magic right here on the bolt. Here it is, guys. Here's where the magic happens. You can see that the locking lugs that are typically here on an AR-15 are not flat on the back to lock up inside that extension. These are at an angle, and this is a very precise angle. I was talking to one of the engineers at CMMG, and they had to come up with, it took a while, they had to figure out a precise angle for each of the cartridges that they have the Banshee for. So this is the 9mm, but they have a totally different angle on the 5.7x28 and on the 45 ACP. So here it is when it's locked up, and you can see that it does spin just like you normally get on an AR when this is changing position. So here it is when it's all locked up. You have the cartridge fired, the brass expands to kind of fit the chamber, and then it's going to have a delayed movement since you do have that extra bit of pressure on those on the extension on the back of the barrel. And then little by little it's going to move backward, cam out, and that's going to give you enough time for that brass to kind of cool off a little bit, shrink a little bit, for the bullet to get out of the muzzle. And in general, this is going to lead to a cooler, cleaner system overall, and probably one that's a lot more accurate too, just because you really don't have those moving parts. You don't have the brass trying to be extracted while the bullet is still heading down range, or heading out of the muzzle. And you can see that the gas key right here is kind of vestigial. This is just for kind of locking up with the charging latch, but this doesn't actually do all that much right now. It doesn't have a hole drilled through it. No gas comes back in here. There's no gas tube attached to the barrel. This is all that radial delayed blowback system, and in my testing it seems to really work. Target time. What we're looking at first is Federal American Eagle 115 grain full metal jacket. Love this ammo. It always works great in everything I've tried it in. It's great for cycling. Never had any kind of, short stroke sort of issues or anything like that. Great ammo and very inexpensive. Easy to get at all of your local retailers. And let's see how it did at 50 yards. Okay, so we're looking at about 4 3/4 inches all the way across. Not too bad for a plinking ammo, and this is shot off a rest. I was using the Champion Premium rest, at least using the front of it, to try to get nice and steady. So there you go, that's 50 yards. Next up, we have Streak ammunition. This is premium ammunition right here. It's a hollow point. It has that kind of glow-in-the-dark substance on the back. And this shot very well, very reliably in all the testing that we did. We shot this a little bit in some of our pistols and then in the Banshee here. And let's see what this group comes out to be. This looks like my biggest measurement. Yeah, it's just a little bit over 4 3/4 again. Okay, so we're coming up with the same kind of precision there. And this was good enough for us to be able to hit our steel target at about 180 yards. So that was good fun. Now we're taking a look at Federal Syntech. These are just bullets, as you can see right here, and they are red. These are polymer jacketed bullets. They work basically the same as a copper, so if you have a good copper jacketed bullet recipe, you can just swap it right over. What I was using was Ramshot Zip, and it didn't work all that great at first. I had to nudge it up a couple of grains to get reliable cycling, but once I did that, it was good in the CMMG and in my other pistols. And you can see that this did open the groups up quite a bit, so we're looking at about 8 1/8 inches all the way across here. So I can tweak this one sometime, maybe use a different powder. You can see my muzzle velocity and standard deviation figures right here. Maybe I can get this tightened up a little bit or get a bit more precise with my powder measurement. And yeah, we'll see what we can do with these in the future. I really like the bullets so far. They seem to work really well. We've looked at the parts, we've looked at the targets, but what is the actual purpose of an AR pistol like this, especially one that's as good as this one? Well, I've mentioned this a couple times already, it's just plain fun. This is a great little range toy. Something that's fun to go out with the family or with your friends and just plink at stuff. If you want to set up some multiple targets like we did, or if you just want to take some cans or some bricks or something and just throw them out there and start plinking around, you're gonna have a whole lot of fun. And one of the great things about this total form factor is that yes, your children can shoot it quite easily. A lot of us immediately think of the Rascal or the Cricket for a child's gun, but as it turns out, just the way that this works, it's lightweight and it's kind of rearward weight where it doesn't have a lot of that muzzle heavy sort of feel that you're going to get from a standard AR-15 with its longer barrel and all that. Children can shoot this quite well. Now here's the caveat. Yes, this is comfortable for a child to shoot and it's pretty easy to point around for them. And with the rip brace, yes, you can really crunch it down and be able to get that shorter length of pull that they need. But remember that it's very easy to blow your hand off with this very short barrel right here. There are some options with some of the other CMMG Banshee pistols or SBRs. Some of the different chamberings are going to have different length barrels, but on the 9mm here, you have this 5-incher. And you have to make absolutely sure that your child knows that where to put their hand on the handguard here. If it slips forward, yeah, they can just punch a hole straight through. You can see in the video that we did with Wyatt and with his dad Corey that Corey, for the most part, was actually holding his son's hand onto the magwell right here just to make sure that it could not go forward. He gave his son a little bit of leeway a little bit later when he was sure that he knew what he was doing. But this could be something just something to think about. Make sure that you don't get anybody hurt. Another two very practical uses for this pistol, it's going to be a good varminter, actually, I think. Not in the traditional sense of, shooting prairie dogs or anything at long range, but if you have to deal with varmint, pest animals that are coming around your homestead, your farm, maybe you live out in the country a little bit, and you want to be able to take out some animals that come around to mess with your dogs. Like we've had coyotes in this area come up and eat dogs and things like that. If you have those kind of pest animals, this might be a really good choice. If you're shooting at night, you can shoot some of this streak ammo to be able to verify your impacts. And you know, if you do have maybe raccoons, skunks, things like that, you want to protect your chickens, could be a good choice there. And then you have your two-legged varmint. So this is a great little PDW for being able to protect your house. This is going to come around corners a lot better than your typical AR-15 will, just because of that really shortened barrel and shortened overall package. You don't have that really long barrel that is going to be maybe knocking around corners or have a difficult time cutting those corners. This is going to be really handy, working a lot like a pistol, but actually, since it's even closer to your body than that, you can have a much smaller package overall and probably move around a whole lot better. And then as a truck gun, another great choice, because this is one that if you need to be able to defend yourself in traffic or whatever, sometimes that kind of thing happens. And this will stow pretty easily. It does crunch down quite small once you put this rip brace down into its shortest position. And then if you need to deploy it, even moving around in the tight confines of a vehicle, it's going to get the job done. Not quite as, you know, easy to point as a pistol where you can just move your wrist around, but definitely a lot easier to point than a rifle. One of the most common questions people will ask about an AR pistol like this one is what kind of sighting system to use. Remember that for the most part, you're going to be dealing with larger targets at closer distances, so something like this 1X Bushnell TRS-25 is just perfect. It's a 3 MOA red dot. It's going to give you a huge field of view all the way around. You shoot two eyes open. There's no magnification, nothing weird going on, and you can really quickly move between your targets. Another great choice might be some good iron sights. I am a massive fan of iron sights. I think that every AR should have them. And these are the ones that we've been testing out on both the pistol here and on the Scout AR that we are continuing to work on. By the way, I have tested this out and I've done some accuracy testing and kind of played around with it a little bit, and it's way better than I thought it would be. This rifle is coming along great. If you want to check out that full playlist, I'll link to it around here. But one of the things that I am testing on this are the Ultradyne sights, which we also ran on the pistol in the speed drill and some other tests. And yeah, I love the way that these work. They are rather expensive for iron sights, but considering what you get, it's pretty phenomenal bang for the buck. These have apertures both at the rear and at the front, so you can actually just see straight through to your target. It's kind of like a combination of AR sights and 22 target sights that you might get on a biathlon rifle or something like that. So yeah, it's like the sights kind of disappear. You're looking through them and then you're moving very quickly between the targets. I would say overall it was a little slower than the red dot. That one's just a little bit more natural. You just get the dot on there and then you shoot. But then once you do get your head kind of squared away on these iron sights, they work very, very well. Sadly, our time with the CMMG Banshee has come to a close. This was a loaner, so I have to send it back to them. The only person that's going to be sadder than me to see it go is going to be Wyatt. He really wanted to get out and keep shooting with this, and I think that right there is a great testament to how good of, just how fun of a little pistol this is. And not only is it fun, it's going to really command that price tag. It's definitely going to be more expensive than your typical blowback AR pistols, but it's going to be worth that because you do get all the uprated parts. You get the that special action that's going to run cooler, cleaner, and it's probably going to be a lot more accurate. And then you do have its total reliability overall. The guys at CMMG went crazy on this. They made this a very tight pistol overall, and it really does combine some of those wonderful features of both the pistol and the rifle all together into a great little package.
Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to like, share, and most importantly, subscribe. Even if you didn't like this particular content, go ahead and subscribe. There's probably something coming that's more up your alley. Check out this playlist right here. This is going to have videos in a similar vein to what you just watched. These two videos we cherry-picked for you. And finally, The Social Regressive is on Patreon. So you can become a patron of the Destructive Arts and earn some goodies while helping us to provide high-quality videos just by kicking us a few bucks a month. Thanks a bunch for your patronage.